So let me ask you a little bit about a what-if scenario that it's Rosenstein is ticked off a little bit, and he does want to tender his resignation. He's had enough. He knows that best-case scenario maybe is he stays on past the election is fired then, so why put up with that, you say?
Well, you know, there's a lot more in that room, a lot more knowledge in that room about where the Mueller probe is. And so I think that's the real interesting point, is whether this is if it's a resignation, is it immediate? Is it something where he says, I'm leaving at the end of the year? I mean, those are very different kettle of fish. If he says, I'm leaving at the end of the year, that signals to me that he wants to see the probe through and that the probe's going to be finished this year. If he says, I'm leaving tomorrow, then whatever the circumstances, it sounds like it's significant enough in Rod's mind that he's going to leave even with that probe still outstanding. But there's also a very common mistake going on right now, which is people tend to think that if Rod Rosenstein leaves, this probe just evaporates into thin air, which I don't think is the case at all.
Well, then let me ask you this. Is there a difference, James, how this and he would be treated, or even his replacement chosen, should he resign or be fired?
My understanding is that when it comes to the probe, you'd have to have a Senate-confirmed official within the chain of command at DOJ take control of that investigation. And because Rachel Brand is gone from the Associate Attorney General position without anybody refilling it, I think that all falls on the Solicitor General, and that's until such time as a new Deputy Attorney General will get confirmed by the Senate.
All right, so in the beginning when these comments were allegedly made, and I know you doubt the veracity of that report, many do, but let's take it at face value that Rosenstein did joke about getting a wire on the president. Obviously, we've known since that many people did tape the president, including some of his closest confidants. Leaving that aside, the 25th Amendment thing is something that would obviously irk the president, but that we're told since that time they have gotten closer, or at least had a more mutual respect. I don't know how true that is, but what do you make of that? And that's why the president would think twice about getting rid of the guy. He's grown to like him.
Well, I hope it's on a couple of levels. I mean, I think the president should keep him on. And I hate to say that. Rod may hate me saying that, too. But I'd like to see him stay on at least through the end of this probe. And I think the president might do that for a couple of reasons. One is just politically that it's a bad move to fire the head of that probe right before the midterms. But on a meritorious level, I'd like to see him stay on because he's the right guy for the job. And I do tend to think that even though the president has thrown some insults out there from time to time, that he might have kind of a grudging respect for Rod, because Rod has shown he's got a pretty thick skin. He's not a politician. He's not used to being accused of all the things politicians are used to throwing around. But he's taken it in stride. He's taken it with a lot of dignity and even a little bit of flash of humor from time to time. I don't think he's laughing about this New York Times allegation, but I do think that he's probably earned a little bit of respect from the president. So I'm hoping that all combines together on some level and lets him stay on at least for a few more months to get through this probe.
Maybe from the president, not from groups like the House Freedom Caucus, right? I mean, he stood up to them.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rod's taking fire from all sides, but I chalk a lot of that up to the fact that people don't know what he's doing. Okay. And the reason they don't know what he's doing is because he's a prosecutor, not a politician. He's not sharing all of the leaks and surrogates that anyone else in Washington would do.
James Trusty, very interesting. Good seeing you. Thank you very much.
You too. Thanks, Neil.